10 years ago, I was actually a victim of online harassment. And it was nothing like what happens to, say, celebrities or politicians. But it was pretty horrible at the time. And I've actually been running my social media agency for 15 years now. So we're going back 10 years ago. It was an early client. And I took on this client that it was a community for IT professionals. And this community had got totally out of control. It had become like the online equivalent of the Lord of the Flies. It was absolutely awful. People were sharing homophobic content, racist content, sexist content. It was absolutely awful. It just got completely out of control. And the client asked they parachuted me in, essentially, to clean this community up. That's what I was asked to do. And the thing is that community did not like being told what to do. They certainly didn't like being told what to do by a woman either. And I tried to make it better, but essentially that community fought back, and they attacked me personally and my company as well. And it was really horrendous. And what happened is that I became the victim of something called doxing as well, which is when they Googled me, they searched out my private details, my home address, my email details, my telephone, and they all started encouraging each other to actually contact me and abuse me. And it was really, really horrific. And then what was interesting is they found photos of me online, photos of my sort of profile at the time. And this is me, 10 years ago, my profile picture looking very fresh-faced. And they started goading each other and doing this sort of competition of who does she look like. And I was really fearful. I was kind of it was horrible. This is where it went a bit weird, because apparently exactly who I look like is British comedian Harry Hill. So, and at that point I just thought, what? Okay, maybe. They kind of got a point, the white collars, everything like that. But at that point, they lost the game, really, because I saw them for what they were. They were just children. They were trying to attack me, trying to make it fearful, but this was ridiculous. So I actually got rid of the client. I said, this is, not worth my time. And I essentially got better clients and moved on. But what it did is it gave me a real insight into what motivates trolls. And after all of these years of working in online communities and social media and crisis management, I've got a real insight into the different types of people that you're going to meet online. So I've broken it down into 4 different adversaries, what actually motivates them, and more importantly, how do you deal with them? So I'm going to go into number 1 first, which is our old school trolls. So exactly how I just described them, but what I had was quite mild in comparison. Now, these trolls, they really want to annoy you. They want to attack. They are abusive. You all know these trolls. You've seen them in comments. You've seen them on Facebook pages, on Twitter, for example. It's getting darker, though. It's getting darker because what you see is really extreme trolling behavior now, where people might have a memorial site where someone has died, and the trolls will actually be leaving comments about the person who's passed away. And it's got even darker than that. We had recently with the shootings in Las Vegas, there was a situation where someone was actually claiming that their father had died and was missing in Las Vegas. This wasn't true. This wasn't true at all. They actually just made it up. And when they were confronted by a journalist to say, why are you actually doing this? The answer was, they want the followers. So someone's actually claiming that their father has died so they can get Twitter followers. This is a real insight into the motivation. Because yes, they want airtime, they want attention, they want to annoy, but there's a competitive side as well. There's a really competitive side that it's almost like all of these trolls are trying to work out, can they just go that step further? Can they be just that little bit more horrible? Almost like, who wants to be king of the trolls? And it's a very, very strange time that I actually end up advising clients and brands at the moment to update their crisis plans to be ready for the ultimate king of the trolls at the moment, Donald Trump. So, it's true. But it is possible to combat against these trolls. So essentially, you can delete their comments, for example. I think the key thing is, there's an old adage, do not feed the trolls. That is still true. I'd go a little step further, and I say you have more control than you think. You can delete comments, you can remove them from your communities, but be aware they are trolls. They will come back, and they will bring their troll friends with them. So let's move on now. We have the angry mob. Now, the angry mob is made up of, it could be me, it could be you, it could be anyone. The key thing is that the angry mob gets very upset about a particular issue. It's often something that a brand has done. So it could be, it's essentially that there is a wrong that needs to be righted. There is a sense of injustice, and people will get on the back of this and they will start attacking a brand, they will be tweeting, they will be getting involved, sort of sending things on Facebook. And there was an amazing example of this just earlier this year. United Airlines actually had a situation where they had people overbooked on the airline, and this man was taken off the airline by security guards. And he was literally dragged off the plane. He was covered in blood. It was very, very upsetting. And people on the plane were taking videos and taking pictures and sending them around, and it went absolutely viral. And of course, people saw those images. They thought this was absolutely terrible. They attacked United Airlines. They were sending tweets. They were getting more involved. So it's that people get their pitchforks. They get very, very upset. They want an answer. They want someone to pay for this. And what United Airlines did is actually a very good way to describe how you can try and get rid of this angry mob, because what they did was not the best, actually. And their very first response was this. Now, you see, it lacks any empathy. They apologized for the overbooking situation. They didn't actually apologize for dragging a man off the plane. So this is a key thing. You have to have empathy. You have to respond to people. It's really important that you respond to individuals as well. That's how you can break down the mob. And these days on social media, it's all about speed. They have to get back to people quickly. Now, the next response was actually an email that was sent internally. But of course, these days, internal emails, you might as well just send them straight out. They all go external as well. You'll see that the CEO actually went to victim blaming and referred to the man, remember he'd been pulled off a plane, as disruptive and belligerent. So of course the angry mob getting more and more angry. However, eventually they were able to deal with this, and they did start responding to people individually. It wiped off $1 billion off their share price, but they did bounce back. So it is possible to deal with the angry mob. The next one I want to talk about is essentially the activists. Now, there are two types of activists. One is the people that you probably see on your Facebook page, people who are behind a single cause. It might be something they really feel strongly about, but they're more likely individuals. I call them the drive-by activists. They will spot any opportunity to just post about their cause. But it's not them that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the coordinated activists, the huge groups, like think of Greenpeace, for example. And so these groups are like behemoths, and they will get a brand in their site. So if a brand has done something wrong, they have the ability to do a big advertising campaign. They have big production values that they can essentially go after a brand. And they have an army of people that will attack that brand as well. Now, honestly, there's not much you can do when you're in that situation, and you must not talk to them online. You can't solve the problem online. And the best way around it is to have a separate dialogue with these people, and even better, don't get yourself into that situation in the first place as a brand. I'm going to move to the last one now, which is the influencers. The influencers are absolutely key in our digital economy. These people can make a situation 10 times worse or they can really change the game. Now, these people they could be celebrities, they could be YouTube stars, they could be politicians, they could be journalists. What motivates them is that they need to get to the truth. They need honesty, and you absolutely need to have an open dialogue with these people. And there was a great example. Pepsi actually released an ad that did not meet, it kind of missed the mark. It was an advertising campaign that had a big sort of riot, and it had a woman giving a Pepsi to the riot police. They got it a little bit wrong. They didn't read the mood of the nation, and they got attacked for it. And it was bubbling up as a bit of an issue. But it was only when the daughter of Martin Luther King actually got involved as an influencer, and she tweeted this very powerful tweet. "If only Daddy would have known about the power of Pepsi." Really, really emotional. And from there, things changed. People got more and more, they became more like the angry mob, as it were. And Pepsi did actually pull that ad and they, of course, they apologized and they did the right thing. So, we've had all four. I've put it into a neat little guide for you, so you can have it on your mobile, you can have it on a piece of paper if you're ever in this situation. So the key thing is, you can engage with the angry mob. It's possible to try and remove that mob by individual conversations, transparency, and empathy, and above all, speed. You can engage with the influencers. As I just sort of said, that it's possible to actually have a dialogue, and it's very important to. They need honesty. Avoid the activists. These people, I think the key thing is that you can't have a conversation online. You're going to lose on that battlefield. It's really, really important. So do not air your dirty laundry with activists online. And even better, don't have dirty laundry. And the last one, coming right back to the trolls. Yes, you should ignore the trolls. Do not feed the trolls. Do not give them airtime. But if I go back to those 10 years ago, I think we all forget that we do have more power than we think. We can take more control. I walked away from that situation. I gave the money back to the client. I've moved on to bigger and better things. I was better than them, and they were bullies. And the thing is, we mustn't normalize that behavior. We have more control, and we can fight back. Thank you.